Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fibre Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Rob H, Ben White, Maximum Gravy, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
It's going to be more difficult to see it because of the angle you have. That's about it.
Yeah, his problem is he's got the presupposition of a globe and he doesn't want to face it. Adam, you handsome devil.
Hi guys. Bit of sunshine today.
Hello, Adam.
Hi, Nate. You all right, mate? Rufy got his crayons out last night, so I've kept you up to date with his response. Very strange. He's drawn a little picture with parallel sun rays as his proof. So I'm not sure where that leads him, but gave me a little giggle.
It will eventually lead to insanity.
Well, they're obsessed with us at the moment.
Isn't it?
They're absolutely obsessed with us. As they should be, given that they haven't got a rebuttal.
Yeah, and that's what my son in the car, I guess the elevation thing was getting to him. So he just, it's an easy test. I said, Jacob, it is easy. Are you paying attention? Elevate, you cannot do this on a curved surface. It's that simple. Well, yeah, but put people all over the world and you won't see the same stars because we're on a sphere.
My God, what is that noise?
Take it easy.
It's so harsh on my ears. What is making that noise, Neil?
I don't know. I'm walking through the city.
It's horrible.
I'm walking and talking and trying to get to my car, so it's probably me.
It's like a tapping noise as you speak.
Well, did you get anything of what I said, or you just got the damn chop?
Yeah, and a headache along with it.
Oh, take a couple of Advils and go to bed.
Can't take any more painkillers, Neil.
Anyway, what I was getting at is it's driving them insane. That's a fact. It's overwhelming them.
Yes, it is. But that's good for my stats. I mean, my viewing figures have gone up, which is great. Happy days in terms of my stats at the moment. I'm very pleased. Thank you to all the anti-flat earthers who come and watch, probably for a longer chunk of time than the regulars on our own side do. Is it Howard Stern that said that originally? That his haters would actually engage with the show longer than his fans? Hater fans?
Well, it's partly because they're no longer interested in the nature of Earth. They're only interested in what we're saying. We define them, as we're doing again at the moment. So they're tuning in to see what they need to mug themselves off with, how they need to deal with what we're saying. I mean, yesterday's, I don't know when this is out, the awards bit that when they came in yesterday. I'm looking forward to listening to it. But that's a good example of how are we going to deal with this argument we can't rebut. I know. We'll have an awards show.
Yeah.
It's funny that you said Howard Stern.
Go on. Why?
Tom Likas did the same thing.
Who did what? Say again?
He did the same thing that you were talking about Howard Stern did. They're both radio personalities. The funny thing is Tom Likas got more kickback, more listening time from the haters, and they were around for years. Like, oh, I never listened to the show. And he's like, oh, so you don't listen to the show? Well, occasionally. And then it's like, oh, I listen every day because I hate what you say. Like, you can't stay solid on a position.
Yeah. The people who come in are compelled to. So, good. Great. Thanks for the stats. I appreciate it.
Your greatest fans are your heaviest detractors.
I said this the other day with a couple of technical things. So, one of the haters was demanding what, presumably to the troll, seemed unreasonable. I measured frequency responses, which is something I'd do anyway. I'm like, yeah, I've got that. So I chucked it in a video. Another troll said, your camera's too fuzzy. So I got a little assembly that I cobbled together from an old VESA mount and a bracket and a boom arm stand, and put my camera on a little arm so I could drag it right close. So it's only 12 inches away rather than 3 feet away. So it's not fuzzy anymore. And then someone says it's too close. So like, okay, well, I've got it nice and close on my arm, but obviously I've gone a bit far. But each time they said it, I was like, screw you. And just by coincidence, there's a guy I watch on a totally different subject, but it is related, called Robot Underground. And he just makes subwoofers. Very good at it, in fact. Makes them cheap. Good quality. Cheap prices. All the rest of it. All the things you'd want. Don't look the shiniest, but it doesn't matter, right? They do what they do. And he's good at what he does. He knows what he's talking about. He knows all the technical stuff behind what he's doing. But he's watching YouTube and he's annoyed with some of the people out there that do their thing. Now, one of them is a different guy called Williston Audio Labs, and all he does is dyno test amplifiers and gives an opinion on subwoofers, various other things, but mostly amplifier dyno tests. And this Robot Underground guy did a critique of Derek, his name is, this amp dyno guy. And all of the things that he criticised him on, I actually agreed with. Now, I really like Williston Audio Labs. I like watching the dyno tests. I love it. In fact, I like his channel a lot. But the critique that he came out with, it wasn't something that was on my mind, but I thought, yeah, I agree with pretty much every point you've made about him. Not that it matters. I wouldn't stop watching even if he didn't do a damn thing. But the guy's reaction was to say, the guy's a troll, the guy's just basically tell him to sod off, or not hand wave it, but react in a way that says you're just a nasty person. But after the comments, the guy started to change his videos. He made subtle adjustments that seemed to parallel with the critique that it had from this Robot Underground guy. So the guy, as much as he's gone, yeah, just a troll, go away. Same with me. When the trolls come along, you do pay a certain amount of attention to them. You do take what they say to heart to a certain degree. And often, like you say, your worst detractors are actually giving you some of the best tips. Someone saying, yes, super close-up was out in the 90s. That's how it was phrased to me. Pretty much verbatim. Now, I read between the lines. You're saying my camera angle is jarring. It's too close. Okay? Me, I scrub through the bit when it's me on camera. Nobody likes looking at themselves on camera. So I don't give it that much attention. But, somebody else is, and they've told me, move the camera back. In so many words. But that's a detractor that's been useful. Because there's going to be other people who are too polite to say, yeah, it's really jarring when you're right up close in the full field of the frame of the camera. So there we go. I'm just saying, our enemies don't realise how useful they are sometimes, and how some of their nasty comments do get turned into, positive changes. But there we go. I don't think that'll affect anybody, because they're still in their mind think they're being horrible when they say things like that. mad listening to people talk about subwoofers with the same sort of passion as we have.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I don't mind listening
Hey,
to subwoofers. Hey, Adam, how are you?
Yeah, nice chat last night over text, mate. I enjoyed that. It was.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, so what's the Academy Awards came to Nathan Oakley's show. Yeah, that was interesting. I caught a little bit what Adam was saying, but I think the argument is over. They can't deal with the glaring facts that they can't prove the very thing they say blocks the bottoms of boats and buildings. Curvature, the horizon. And we've, together as a team, come at them from all angles, pun intended, and they just, okay, we give up. So let's do this. I think they're at that point too.
One of the
I played it for my wife, and she was like, she couldn't believe
mine
how
too.
they were acting.
Yeah, mine too. Mine said the same thing. One of the super chatters said, "You were better off staying silent and letting us just believe you were fools, rather than opening your mouth and leaving no doubt." But I think the sentiment's spot on. But I'd paraphrase it slightly and say, you were better off staying silent and making your audience believe that you might have had an argument. But to come here and just carte blanche run an award show over the top of this show with us on mute, that's very telling. Not like, oh no, I need to panic if you tune, but telling from the point of view of people on the periphery like our wives, who my wife doesn't give a crap about this. She's been in the background listening to it on and off for years, so it doesn't hold much interest to her. So for her to perk up and go, my God, that didn't look very good. And I was like, what, me? No, you're these two people. What are they doing? Do they think that looks good? No, I don't know, because I'm as baffled as she was when I was editing it. I'm like, I don't know what to say. I wouldn't have done that in a million years. It really looks bad on them. And as I said at the time, if you were an audience member and you're like, yeah, Tune's going to stick it to them, and they come in, stick us on mute and just start talking amongst themselves, starting off their show on their own channel, just happen to be here, running audio chaos through us without listening to a word we say, you're like, the audience knows what's going on. They're not dumb. Not to mention the fact that John pointed it out to them.
They think we're dumb. See, that's what they're hoping on, Nathan, that we can make them look stupid, that what they're doing is so stupid that we'll make fun of them and our audience will believe us. I think it backfired.
Well, it more is true for their audience. We might say, oh, their audiences are just idiots because they believe they're... No. Their audience is just an average audience. In fact, it's probably the same exact audience as ours, for the most part. Yeah, they're going to get more people coming from the periphery just through search engine preference, but ultimately we're going to have a similar type of cross-section of society that ends up here. And they're not stupid. The public aren't that stupid. Yeah, they are in some instances, but for the most part, there's going to be plenty of people watching that go, where's the demolition of these flat earthers? You're there, right? Because you're confident. That's why you've gone to them, right? To show how confident you are in your assertions. But you've just stuck them on mute and started talking amongst yourselves and running an award ceremony, occasionally letting us in on the conversation because you're running your own show. That's not coming here to debate.
That's what I'm saying. They think what they did was, if I was their audience, I'd be insulted.
Exactly.
I would be really insulted.
That's the word. It's insulting to their own audience. I wasn't really talking about our audience. I'm more talking to their specific audience. I don't know who that is. I don't watch their shows. But I'm saying in this community, in this arena, in this corner of the internet, I would say that this cross-section of society is going to be very similar for them as it is for us. But obviously with different motivations and different, biases that they're seeking when they watch. Well, they're going to be, I'm not going to say pissed, but what was the word you used again, Neil?
Insulted.
Insulted. Yeah, it's a bloody good word. I'd be insulted if I was their audience.
Whoever the super chat was, I thought I recognised the phrase, but it's very apt. It's Mark Twain. It's better to keep your mouth shut and appear stupid than open it and remove all doubt.
Yeah, Mark Twain. But somebody super chatted it like right on cue yesterday while it was happening.
Also, if you listen to anybody that you admire or I admire, and you just catch, periphery talk or general talk on the subject, you say, yeah, I agree with this guy. This is a good guy. So now if we transpose that to their side and our side, someone in their audience who maybe on other arguments goes along with these clowns that came on, if they were ever to see action like this, the award show dubbed over your show, but other things like when Craig says, when he puts his hand in front of his face and says, is my hand there? No, it's not there. It's being refracted. If you were to ever say something akin to that, Nathan, I couldn't stand by you. Because if I go, well, okay, he made a mistake. No, he didn't make a mistake. That's just stupid.
That's not a mistake. That's standard heliocentric rhetoric. Everything is always refracted, always, without exception. So his statement in a heliocentric world actually stands true. Therefore, I can't believe you're doing this. I have to give him more props because often, from what I see from the little scraps that people put out there of his material that I do see, he seems to be slightly more in line with the heliocentric rhetoric. Now, when people have mentioned this to me, they've said that the anti-flat earthers dislike Craig. And why? Well, because he actually does parrot out the actual heliocentric rhetoric. And that's not good, right? You don't want normal global rhetoric in this arena. You need anti-flat earth rhetoric. What's his problem? And for that reason, some of them don't like him. So, yeah, not being able to see your hand in front of your face because of sphere-shaped air, always, yeah, that's actually standard rhetoric.
Yeah, it may be standard rhetoric, and I agree with your comment, but the point is normal people realize that it may not be that intense. It might have, where it's not that noticeable. No one says those kinds of things, even though they believe those things. The minute you say those things, when something's a foot or less in front of you, is refracted, like they say the horizon is something further away from you. It destroys all sense of common sense and logic and critical thinking, because you say, well, wait a minute, are you saying that it's refracted up to that point? Is that where my belief in the heliocentric goes? I have to abide by that, even to that limit of that distance? Oh my gosh, I can't buy into that. And so it just puts a crack in their whole thing because it's all nonsense.
Yeah, but if you say it often enough and with enough confidence, that nonsense, permeates into people like Craig. Now, I remember first finding that out because it wasn't something that I was aware of in my understandings when I was a baller. It came about long after when I was a flat earther. So I remember Chris Monk taking me through some of the models and me quizzing. I can't remember what it was that I took issue with or questioned him about, but it was in regards to the refraction part of the model. And he said, well, you appreciate that everything is always refracted, always. Light's reaching your eye bent at a rate of r, always, without exception. It doesn't matter if it's your hand in front of your face or a building that's several miles away. That light has bent its way into your eye according to heliocentrism. So there's nothing where it's supposed to be at all, ever. Nothing's actually where you think it is in the heliocentric model. Everything's got bent light, everything's refracted, everything's moving to your eyeball in sphere-shaped air at an arbitrary rate that applied by use of an R value that we debunked in 2020. But yeah, nothing's where it's supposed to be. It's nuts, but that's the rhetoric.
Well, it might be their rhetoric, and it definitely matches their model, but it's insanity at the same time when the normal heliocentric convert, who's not digging into the details of the lie, hears it from that point of view, then all of a sudden they're like us. What? Did he just say that? Well, that's your model. That's what's got to happen if it's your model. Yeah, but that doesn't happen now. No, but that's your model. You got to own up to it. No, I'm not going that far. This guy's too crazy. See, that's what's happening here, is they're sounding crazier by standing up for their model.
Maybe not. I don't know. I just know what the heliocentric rhetoric dictates. And if I'm ruthlessly honest, I prefer to deal with somebody like Craig in that regard. I'm not saying Craig in terms of his personality, but somebody that actually likes to utilise the standard actual heliocentric rhetoric, not Earth and atmosphere move as one, or something that defies the actual globe rhetoric, which is Earth turns underneath to cause Coriolis drift. You know, when they start...
Well, look at the picture. I'm sorry to interrupt you, because you got a picture up right now that I posted to you before of the boat, the triangle on top of the globe. This picture is a perfect example of another subject similar to the one we're talking about, as to if I showed this to somebody who's heliocentric, globe believer, all that stuff. When they see that picture, they say, "Now, what the heck is that? Did you do that? Did you do that, Ted?" No, that's from a navigation site. That's what they did. No, then what's the context? Because now you're taking it out of the context. There's no way that right angle triangle belongs on the surface of the globe. There's no way.
Yeah, welcome to Flat Earth.
But see, this is the beauty of it. The minute you start, at least in celestial navigation, just read their books. Not my books, not Nathan Oakley books, not Adam Meekin books, not even that New York guy. You know, that guy who loves to rub it in their face. He doesn't even write books on the subject. Neil, their books, they say all these things. And then you match it to the rhetoric they put out and say, something's amiss. Something doesn't make sense. You couldn't believe my jaw dropped to the floor when I saw that picture for the first time. I said, they actually are going to do this? It was incredible when I first saw it. That's why I just kept buying books, because I'm saying, what else is there? I got to find some more.
I see that picture as somebody that couldn't come up with a better diagram to square the circle, so to speak. Not that they are squaring the circle, but the diagram Brian used from another one of your presentations, hey Brian, where it's got it's like a chord line dissecting the sphere, and then the bulge comes up through the right angle and then back down. Well, that is a better way of depicting it. It doesn't work either, but it's a slightly more palatable globe version that doesn't work, rather than just teeter-tottering a triangle on top of a curved edge. But you can imagine the guy who authored it going, well, I've got to draw it somehow. You know, it didn't come to him like it did for the other guy or girl when they drew it with a curve through the flat.
That's the bulgy bottom triangle, right?
Yeah, the curvy bottom triangle is the one that Brian likes to use when he's using, well, this is your rhetoric, here it is. Here's how it doesn't work. It's right in the diagram.
But that's their arrogance. They feel they could just do whatever they want, say whatever they want, draw whatever they want, and everybody will believe it.
Well, they do. And it's true. If you can make those pictures moving images, then they're even more easily digested by mainstream public.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, sorry, I timed it wrong there. Apologies. Hey, everybody.
Brian, you got to start growling when you come in. Arr! That was hysterical yesterday. I can't wait to hear that.
It's like a Jack Russell.
So just for context, for anybody listening back after the fact who hasn't listened to yesterday's show, Brian was being described as like a rabid pit bull that's tied up behind the other kennels and is just waiting for somebody to beg the question of in other words, when we... I don't think this will ever happen on this show, Brian, but obviously you do what you do on your channel, right? You allow them to beg the question. Well, they can't get an angle, so it doesn't tend to progress any further. And we've had that as a comment. Someone was telling me yesterday, I think it was Mitchell, Nathan just won't let it go beyond the acquisition of an angle from a flat Earth. No, I won't. That's right, because that's where we win. Why would I? Well, let's just pretend the angle we just measured has actually got a bent line that wouldn't give us an angle. No, I won't be doing that. But Brian can. Right, but that's essentially when he does it with such vigour, it's him being that rabid pit bull, because there's very, very little for him to attack, and when he does, he's gonna rip it to shreds because it becomes more and more nonsensical. That's why you end up with some of the diagrams which are brilliant, the beautifully drawn diagrams that they come up with spheres and lines coming off in all directions. And you're like, you just look at a triangle on a flat surface, and that's how it's done. None of this is relevant. But you've got all these complications to try and hide the fact that you're using a plane also. It's brilliant. I love it. And anybody looking in won't look in and go, oh, that's nice and simple. I can understand that. When they're drawing off parallel light rays and zeniths that meet at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, and then an angle bit that's moved to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth on an equatorial plane with the globe cut in half and the light being projected out, as I said, parallel. No one's going to look at that and go, oh, yeah, that's so simple. So simple I can understand it immediately. But you look at the
It's
flat
like-
Earth explanation of just how celestial navigation is done, and the diagrams that go along it, with just like a triangle plonked on a bit of ocean. You're like, yeah, I can understand that. That's a lot more easy to digest, isn't it? Because that's how it's done.
Nathan, it's like the old days when the gentlemen used to challenge each other and they slap, okay, you've offended my honor, let's meet. And so they meet and they pace off, and if they're using guns, they shoot guns. If they're using swords, they use swords, whatever. So imagine bringing that situation to this day and they say, okay, global believer, you come with your ball, flat earther, you come with your plane, and we're going to face off at 3 o'clock. And the global believer goes, yeah, but I need a plane with my ball before I start, so I need a plane and a ball. It's like, no, you got to stick to your globe. That's what you're fighting for. No, but I need that flat earth measurement first.
I need that flat Earth measurement first, and let's be honest, right? Measurements off a tangent plane have got nothing to do with the surface. Shouldn't you be fighting for the surface being curved? Yeah, but the tangent plane's nothing to do with that. But isn't that what you're navigating along? So you just need the plane, and that's the bit you are navigating and measuring. But that's got nothing to do with the sphere surface when you say tangent. Debunk 2020. No, we know. Nothing to do with your sphere surface.
I love that. That's their response too. The tangent plane has nothing to do with the curved surface beneath it. That's their response to this.
Yeah, I seen one of them in from one of the comments on yesterday's show. I looked into yesterday's show just to see what comments would be there after the two lads came in, and one of the comments was, Nathan, you've been told 67 times that we just create a tangent plane, and then everything is okay. And this is a baller saying this. That, you know,
Oh my God.
yeah, it's like that solves the problem. We're going to use a flat plane, and then we're going to match it into a globe. That's basically what he's saying. So we can't do this on a curved surface. That's what he's saying. But he was attacking Nathan on, I don't know if it was that show, on the show or the short clip that Nathan put out, but he was attacking Nathan on Nathan, saying that he's asked Toon 67 times for, you know, how do you deal with the elevation angle? And this is what he come up with.
Well, that's an admission that you can't use the curved baseline.
Correct.
That's all that is. I still think it's better when they say it has nothing to do with the surface of Earth. Or they mean the sphere Earth.
Correct. It has nothing to do with their sphere Earth. Everything to do with a flat Earth.
This is where John, I hope you're listening here, and the kids aren't too loud, but you nailed it with Eratosthenes. See, they want to say that the shadow in Alexandria was due to the Earth curvature and the parallel sun rays. And you're tying it to angle measurement. It must be flat because of the plane, the shadow, and the sun, and you're using the ground. So you've just destroyed their whole thing about parallel sun rays and Earth curving to create the shadow.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now we are joined by Brian's Logic, Neil, 10th Man, Arwin, Chocolate Sayin, Father of a Stolen Child, the Adam Meekin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Greetings.
Hello.
Yo, yo.
Hey, good morning.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, good to have you all. Following on from yesterday's show, is there any elevation angle measurement proof from a curved surface?
Why don't we ask McToon and fight the flat Earth? Oh wait, they were only playing recordings of you.
Maybe you could prove that with a fake award show. Maybe that's the proof for that you could take an elevation angle off a curved baseline.
I'm upset that I didn't get an award.
Let's not talk about the awards and talk about the fact that when asked, when it was verbalised to him personally, McToon that is, that he requires a flat Earth elevation angle, then his response was, Mitchell sent me. Did you know Mitchell sent me? By the way, Mitchell sent us. You know, Mitchell sent us. We're here at the request of Mitchell. That was his response.
Yeah,
Yep.
he didn't want to deal with it.
Did
That's
I
for
get
sure.
an award?
Can we stop talking about the awards bit? The only purpose of the awards was so that they had a purpose that they could just do rather than listen to us or answer any questions or enter into any discussions or debates. So if they've got a show to run, they can join, stick us on mute, which is precisely what they did, and just host a show, creating audio chaos on this show. Well, they're not engaging with us. I mean, I was confused at one point until John actually went, no, they've got a show running. All they're doing is closing the line to this show, Flat Earth Debate, and then hosting their own. So what, you're just going to join and do a show over the top of this show? That's your version of dealing with the Flat Earth elevation angle measurement. 68 times Toon's been asked to explain how he gets around the Flat Earth requirement, and he hasn't. You know, pretending that he's going to do that by coming here and just hosting a show, or Neil opening his mic mid-sentence to cause his absolute crappy audio. I mean, that's just the kind of thing that you do. You come in and you just create a bit of audio chaos.
I was going to say, but what do you expect, Nathan? They can't. They have to do that. They can't do anything else.
It's not they care. They feel compelled. They've got to do something. That's why we're all being chased up at the moment, and we're all smirking about it. They don't seem to get it. Yeah, your proactivity is just making us laugh. And we don't have to do a damn thing. We just sit here, and you all come to us like flies to shit. Oh, good.
When your adversary can't answer a simple question, they have to resort to different tactics, and that's what they did.
And that's because I was smirking the whole time. I had a big smirk on my face.
You would think, I mean, these are the globe defenders, right? You got Fight the Tight Shirt and McClown, whatever his name is. And instead of coming in and just telling us very simply how you can get a elevation angle off a curved baseline, that's what they subject themselves to. That's pathetic.
Imagine being in a paradigm that requires you to make fun of the worldview you utilize. You know, that's what they're in.
The one you have to make fun of, but the one that you needed to get your own worldview even to exist.
I hope you're all picking up on this in the audience. What is being discussed between Chocolate and John is the very fact that in order to have a globe model, you required flat Earth elevation angle measurements to take place in the first instance. Your globe relies on a flat Earth foundation.
Let me ask you a question. If you were in that situation, what would you do?
Run an award show and tell somebody who's asking you to explain the problem with your flat Earth requirement that they've been invited, that Mitchell invited you. You know Mitchell's here. We're here at Mitchell's request. You realise that? That's what they did. That's what they've actually done. Stick their head in the sand. precisely the same response I've got out of him the 67 previous times. Neil, why is it when I'm in the middle of a sentence, like now,
That
Neil
was
is going to
not
be opening
me.
his mic and causing it to be inaudible? What's going on?
It was not me.
I did just watch your line open, and then a crackle come through, and then I shouted
Yeah,
at you.
to open up and defend myself.
Yeah,
Wasn't
when
me.
Neil, when you open your mic, that means that all we hear is your noise that you will inevitably. I told you in the pre-show. You don't have to be talking. If you open your mic, that's what we hear. Whatever noise is being produced by your mic suddenly dominates the show because you're waiting to talk. Oh, right, okay. So that just means that you're taking over the moment you open your mic at the moment for whatever reason that it's audibly noisy.
Okay, I'm going to say it one more time. It wasn't me. That's when I opened my mic to tell you it wasn't me.
Okay, thought we dealt with this in the pre-show, but there we go. Any evidence of a physical geometric spheroid horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
It only exists in their math.
Well, the horizon is only an optical location, so it can't be what they need it to be, and that's the end of that. It's game over.
Funny enough, that's supposed to be the curve that boats are falling over. That's your nonsense, Globers, not ours. That's yours. They made you believe that you have boats falling over a curve. So you can continue to make fun of flat earthers all you want, but that's what you actually believe and you've been defending for years.
Yes, I hope again the audience is picking up what Chocolate's putting down. Yeah, you've got boats falling over an edge now, haven't you? Your horizon edge that you thought was Earth curve, you've got boats falling over that nonsense. That's right. Nonsense.
Where's your edge, Globers? Where's your edge?
Well, I remember watching, what's that guy? Not Neil deGrasse Tyson, the other guy with the bow tie.
Bill Nye.
Bill Nye. Bill
Nye, the pseudoscience guy.
Yes, Bill Nye. And he was showing this boat model they had. He had this big curved earth, and he had this boat up on top of it. And this mechanical thing where the boat moved away. It was all mechanical. The boat moved away, and bit by bit by bit, it disappeared from the bottom up. But what they had the boat doing was going over the curve at the other side, but it never changed its horizontal. So the horizontal line through the boat never changed. So you ended up, the further it went, from a perspective view, it looked like it was going over a curve, right? To the audience, because they're told that's what we see, right? But what was actually happening is, when it was kind of just at disappearing point, from an orthographic view, what would have happened is the boat would have been at a 90 degree, it would have been at 90 degrees to the water. Because this whole thing about the boat disappearing from the bottom up, it's such a lot of total rubbish. If a boat is going over a curve, what happens is the bow of the boat will disappear first. And the last thing you'll see is the stern and maybe the top tip of the sail, if it has a sail, because the sail is high. The last thing you'll see is the stern. The first thing to disappear will be the bow, right? But they wanted us to believe for years that it disappears from bottom up horizontally. Because that's what we see, a horizontal disappearance from the bottom up. When I made a video about this some while back, and the hate I got was ridiculous. You know, I'm stupid, I don't know anything. Just because I'm pointing out, like, you know, just a fact, like, you know, things can't disappear over a curve and disappear horizontally from the bottom up. That can't happen. You know, these things can't happen. And I know it would be considered by Nathan begging the question to even address that. But it's just like I just enjoy, you know, causing them problems.
Shout out to Godzilla for the super chat, really appreciate the spot. And also, check out the video that's called what's it called? Flashback Earth Curve is the title of the video on this channel, Nathan Oakley 1980 channel. And by pure coincidence, again, the exact topic that the guy came in and tried to explain to us how the diffraction limit works. Well, this is a visual aid to describe that diffraction limit. So on the left, you've got two blobs, if you will, that are resolved. You can see that there's a let's call the top blob the hull of the boat. Let's call the bottom blob the water it's sat on. And let's call in between them the horizon. The limitation to your angle where this diffraction limit is more likely to occur, because against the deck you've got the most limited angle. As you look further and further out, that angle between you and the deck and the thing you are viewing becomes less as it gets further and reaches the point in the middle. So middle frame, you've got the diffraction limit or Rayleigh criterion. That's the point where one image is blurred into the other. So if it's the hull and the sea's going to blur into the bottom of the boat. You won't be able to tell the difference. So if we say that this hull is a, 5-foot hull, let's say that we're now missing a foot of it because it's blurred into the bottom of the ocean. And then on the last frame, you've got completely unresolved imagery for the 5 foot of the hull versus the 5 foot of the deck closest to it, because the angle's too limited. So you can't distinguish between the two. Suddenly, there is no bottom of the boat. You've just got a sail poking out the top, because the bottom of it is limited by the deck at a point that the diffraction limit can be induced. And we show this and have done since 2015 with people sliding coins along tables to the most limited angle, so the bottom disappears. We have people having ballers over a barrel showing them little toy boats going out at very short distances and reaching the diffraction limit, where suddenly you've got bottom-up obstruction. And when it's prior to the distances that are claimed to be Earth curve, they'll be all for telling us how it's the diffraction limit, like that guy in Flashback Earth Curve, the short video we trimmed out with a guy going to great lengths to tell us about a diffraction limit that isn't Earth curve. So you're telling me that stuff can disappear bottom-up at the horizon due to a diffraction limit? That's not Earth curve. The only claim in your maths is that Earth curve does that. So what are you going to do? Well, you're going to present me with a Muppet Vision representation and tell me that we don't need to account for perspective because it's inside view. You're seeing the side of your own head, like we see in reality. Never. Because you can't see the side of your own head and remove all aspects of perspective. The other trick they use is they give the targets a value that doesn't change with distance, feet or metres. So a 10-foot building's 10 foot a million miles. So they draw two lines between a man on the left of the page and a building or a wall, whatever it is, 10-foot item at the right of the page. They draw a line for the base, so that's your flat Earth. And then they draw a line between the two things and say, you should see this million-mile away 10-foot wall. Look, I've got a line that draws between them. You go, yeah, but it's miles too small. It's disappeared because it's too small. No, not on this diagram. 10 foot's 10 foot at any distance. Well, very useful if you want to remove all aspects of the diffraction limit and call it Earth curve, which is precisely what they've done in the maths. I mean, this is only as concise and trim-outable because we've been doing this argument since about 2015 and it was rumbled in 2017.
Yeah, a boat that's 20 foot off the water, right, from the waterline, 20 foot high off the waterline, will disappear, will reach the 0.02 degrees angular size at 8 miles away, which means that it's after reaching the point where a human eyes cannot resolve it. The average human eye cannot resolve past 0.02
that needs
degrees.
prefacing. In free space. So yes, that calculation is for the entirety of the object in free space. So now imagine Brian's description, but you're in the air. There's no ground below you to limit the angle. So all you're looking at is an item with nothing below it and nothing above it and nothing to the sides of it. You're in completely free space. As that item moves away from you, it as an entirety will disappear into the diffraction limit because it's beyond that limit that the angle has just been described by Brian. However, if you've got a deck between you and an item, then the angle to the top of the sail is wider than the angle to the bottom of the boat because the deck limits the angle. So there's two different versions, there's two different types that have to be considered. It's incredibly complex when you break it down, as was done by Life is Short, one of my Patreons, about 3 or 4 years ago on Ranty Flat Earth's channel with Red Pill Philosophy. So there's a lot to it. But the reality of it is, regardless of how detailed you can get about this, it's not included when you turn the world side on and show you the side of your own head, a man and the target, an Earth curve between the two being the only thing claimed to block the bottom of it. No, that's an effect that you can induce with perspective.
Yeah, I mean, that's correct. I mean, if you're looking across a horizontal plane, if you're standing with your feet at the ocean So your feet just touching the water, looking across the ocean, and the ocean is calm and whatever, good conditions. It doesn't matter because you're looking across that horizontal plane. You're angled to the bottom of a boat or whatever you're looking at in the distance. Your angle to it is less than at the top of that boat or whatever you're looking at. So it's become, the bottom of it becomes unresolvable first.
Not that we need to detail this, right? We don't make a claim that requires us to detail what occurs at the horizon. We've investigated it so we can pull apart what the curve maths does and how it works, and it ends up with a very long title, begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator, as a result of us understanding these things. Perspective hijacking in this particular instance. But we don't need to understand any of this stuff. It's not required. Who's got the positive claim about the horizon being a physical edge for boats to fall over? Not us.
Yeah, then we'll get blamed for hijacking perspective.
This is why I love the quote with unorthodox, because it's so great once they're told, because I mean they tell us all the time the only reason these things are supposed to be disappearing is Earth curve, right? So then when he's told, well, the globe math dictates that this horizon can't be the one doing that, having that effect on this boat. And what does he say? Oh, it's I just see the boat not being able to be resolved by the camera. See how the story switches up real quick?
Yeah, but it doesn't.
When you have no Earth curve?
No. An anti-flat earther detailing perspective and challenging us to give our exemplary understanding of something we're not claiming is just a false dichotomy that they lay up. We don't need to defend perspective. And they have no reason to defend it because it's not in their maths. Earth curve doesn't include perspective. A 10-foot building will be 10 foot at any distance. There's no angular relationships at all. On screen now, Rayleigh criterion. So instead of the top-down view, so where there were two dots, one above the other, now we're looking from the side of those two dots as opposed to over the top of them. But you've got resolved. So again, this, when I was describing it earlier, would be the bottom of the boat, although this is a slightly weird way of looking at it in that regard. And the other side would be the ocean, and then the difference between the two being at the Rayleigh criterion, point where you lose resolution, and then unresolved, obviously, when you can't tell the difference between one or the other. So just a way of showing it in side view, basically, the Rayleigh criterion, as opposed to two dots that overlap when it was in the other diagram. But just thought I'd mention it as it was on screen.
I object to this entire thing. It's a contradiction. It's a contradiction to the first premise that we established, that we measure angles from a flat Earth. Why would we be talking about consequences of Earth curve if we're measuring a flat Earth?
Yeah, it's become silly. Yes,
we're not
correct.
really.
Go on, Brian.
Not really talking about. So I'm just saying, we're not talking about the consequences of our curve. We're talking about the real effects, visual, optical effects in the real world. When they show us the Earth curve, all the Earth curve mathematics, anytime they ever wanted us to look at them or they wanted to show us anything, it had to be orthographic, because their maths are orthographic, orthographic, because they don't detail any real world effects. They only detail orthographic view curvature, because that's the way their maths is set up.
They're detailing optics, aren't they? And then denying optics and saying that what they've just detailed is actually Earth curve. That's when chocolate puts it to them, they're in a pickle, because when there isn't sufficient distance to allow it, but you can get the same effect optically, that's when they're all very confused. Because what is happening at that point when you can see stuff disappearing from view or out of resolution, when there is not sufficient curve there for them, they're left with this having to, well, accept the phenomena and then deny that it's applicable when you're looking at things like boats in the distance.
Right. Hence we end up with a question, why can't you see New York from England? Well, let's just pretend for 1 second that England is represented by this dude in orthographic view, in case you're wondering why I've paused on this image. Nothing to do with Cat's pretty face. everything to do with the fact that this guy would be the guy in England. And you say, well, this house is a house on the coast in the States. Yeah? And this line between the two of them, I'm going to write 6,000 miles on that. So why can't we see the house, flat earther? You go, what are you talking about? 6,000 miles? Why would you see it? The house would be tiny. Nope. This house has got the exact correct 20-foot value on it. Doesn't change. It's always 20 foot. 20 foot, 6,000 miles. Why can't you see it? Well, if I draw this diagram with a curve between you and the house, I'm going to assert that it's the curve getting in the way that stops you seeing that distance. It's the only reason. There's only physical obstruction getting in the way that stops you seeing New York from England. It's the only thing that stops you. No angular relationships, because the size, the value of the target will be in feet or meters and never change with distance, removing all aspects of perspective and putting you in a view that you can't experience. You never see the side of your own head. But that's how they draw it, just to remove perspective and call it Earth curve.
But what I'm saying is at the moment that you accept you require a flat plane to get elevation angles, you can't assume that the horizon has anything to do with Earth curve. You just proved it was flat.
Yeah.
And everything we're talking about is detailing their straw man of our position.
Yeah, they're bending the line that they said was flat when they made their model. So what are you doing? The argument's over. You're right, John. You can't start telling us about what Earth curve will do, because Earth curve is violated by any measurements you take from the surface. You'll take the measurements from a flat surface, you'll process the angles that require it to be flat into a sphere, but then you invalidate the angle you took in the first instance. So it is absurd to assert that we've got a horizon sphere edge because of a curved ground when it's being measured flat.
Yeah, but it's beneficial for the audience because people still buy that boats going over the horizon proves Earth curve.
Well, no, I'm not saying that we should get rid of the housekeeping questions or not talk about it. I'm bringing the objection up for the audience because it's a lot simpler than learning perspective, you know?
Well, one thing's for sure. We just tied Bill Nye's boat to the Rayleigh criteria, and that gives Brian one hull of an argument.
Any evidence of the R value? That'd be Earth radius.
Well, funnily enough, that would require a geometric horizon. Do you know what I mean? So no evidence of that.
You can't have a geometric horizon on a flat plane. You know, you'd need a physical sphere edge to get in the way of things to classify it as a physical obstruction tangent point horizon called Earth curve. And obviously, if you're measuring the ground flat, you're not going to have any physical sphere edge obstructions get in your way as the ground curves beneath you. It's not. You're measuring it flat.
Well,
yeah, but
it's okay to.
You don't mean that same pesky geometric horizon that for 2 years we were told we shouldn't see, would expect to see, can never see because we have an quote unquote sphere, air. So because we have air, we can never see this geometric horizon. How are boats disappearing behind that, guys?
No, falling over. You had it right the first time.
Oh yeah, falling over the curve. How are they doing that if you tell us that we can't see the curve, which is also the geometric horizon, being that we have air?
Also chocolate.
Well, you could still have the considerations that it happens, right? But you can't actually see it.
Well, they're in the pickle for sure because chocolate, as you said, that's their rhetoric. But now in the pictures, they mark where it's supposed to be, even though we can't see it because of their sphere shape there, with an X. Okay, well, then that means literally X marks the spot where the boat should be disappearing. And yet we have the black swan, and X is nowhere close to where the horizon is. So it's like, what are you talking about?
Well, they spent 2 years telling us how this line here, this would be, if you assume that Earth's a sphere, a tangent. It's also the claim to be obstruction to things like oil rigs. It's Earth curve. It's the tangent point that gets between you and the thing you're viewing. Now, this is what they currently need to beg us for. A tangent plane. So they can get 90 degrees to it and stuff. You know, to do celestial navigation, they're going to need a tangent. Of course, this diagram, with Simon Dan's full endorsement, is that all lines to the horizon are bent always at a rate of r. Definitely not a tangent. Yeah? That thing that you need to beg us for when you try to use the actual flat surface, that would be the plane, would be the tangent that we've debunked in 2020. You don't have this straight line. What is it, no Atmo Day? Go ask Simon Dan, he'll tell you all about it. How this line, well, we wouldn't expect to see this straight line to a geometric horizon, useful for drawing out tangent planes. You know, the measurable tangent that boats used to fall over, Earth curve. You wouldn't expect to see this. No. Atmosphere, sphere-shaped air, oxymoron. All lines are bent. Hence you can see beyond where was previously claimed to be blocking it and proving Earth curve. Oh, I mean, you can see way beyond what's supposed to be proving Earth has a curve, blocking stuff. You know, atmosphere. So when they previously claimed that you could prove we have Earth curve because of how it blocks stuff, notwithstanding the fact we just went through how you can cause that with diffraction limits that aren't included in this maths, they then completely did away with any straight lines to anything ever. What's that I hear you all cry about this celestial navigation argument? You want to draw out a tangent, debunk 2020, plane, and then navigate that plane. Yeah, that's just a plane that you're navigating. The tangent's well and truly debunked. Like I say, go ask Simon Dan. He'll tell you all about the bendy light.
Well, they'll tell you how their tangent plane has nothing to do with the globe Earth's surface.
That would be a concession, though, wouldn't it? When they draw out a tangent plane, navigate to things along the tangent, measure things along the tangent. Yeah, that's just a flat baseline that they're measuring things and navigating along. When they say that tangent plane that we're using and measuring has nothing to do with the globe Earth surface, yeah, we know. Yeah, everything to do with moving around on the surface of Earth, it's navigating. But nothing to do with your globe surface. We appreciate that, John. It's their concession when they say that. They think that by conceding that the tangent, debunk 2020, plane that you're navigating on has nothing to do with the sphere surface, they think that that's somehow putting it to us, you know, letting us know what's what.
So why would they talk about it? Why would they spend so much time talking about something that we're not talking about? We're asking about the surface. We're talking about the surface. They're supposed to be proving a curved surface. So why do they spend so much time not talking about the surface again?
Because the surface isn't curved. The surface is flat, and what they need to talk about is a tangent, debunk 2020, to attach a dingleberry Earth to an actual plane that they're performing celestial navigation on. It has to be flat to get 90 degrees, elevation angles, you know, lots of flat plane stuff that you're going to do on that flat plane when you measure it and navigate it. But it's got nothing to do with the curved Earth dingleberry tangent that we debunked in 2020. That's just a redundant, not useful, not used, not utilised, not helping you measure. In fact, it would completely ruin the measurements because then you wouldn't get an elevation angle. So why are they saying it's got nothing to do with the surface? Because it hasn't got anything to do with the globe surface. It's got everything to do with navigating a flat plane. That's what you do when you perform celestial navigation and measure elevation angles. It can't not be flat. It has to be, otherwise that functionality would no longer work.
Well, they actually require two tangent planes to even make one elevation angle. They require two. Because they require the one, I'll show you now in a moment, I just share my screen.
Nathan, I got the, I'm sorry, Brian, after you share your screen, Nathan, I got a picture of that dingleberry Earth.
You know when you're ready, Brian.
Yeah, 1 second, I'm going to share it there now. You'll be able to see it there. Now, they require two tangent planes. Because for their maths, they need, first of all, the tangent plane at the water underneath the parison. Then they need this other tangent plane, they need not two tangent planes, one tangent plane, but need two tangent points. So the first one, the first point will become a tangent plane. That will be the flat Earth they'll be using underneath the parison or the water underneath the boat. And the second one will be for their mathematical dip, which will be from the oil line through the water mathematically to a geometric horizon that doesn't exist. And then they will bring this here, I might as well show it. Give me the line. They will bring this black line here, I just show, right? they will bring this end of it mathematically up to here, and then this should really only be here then, because it's in reality, they then will bring this using the actual real world. This is when they get into the real world using height of y correction, they'll bring that down. So, but they want to start by having to bring it up from the second tangent they created. So they need two tangents to the sphere surface.
Sorry,
to do one
bring it up
elevation
from
angle.
the second tangent. And now they're looking at something that doesn't exist. I don't understand how they're going to correct from something that doesn't exist. What tangent?
How are they going to do it? How are they going to do it?
Well, if they're going to correct from something, right, they need to know what they're correcting from, and it needs to be a measurable point. Well, H in this diagram on a sphere is the geometric horizon. I mean, we went over this with Simon Dan, didn't we? You know, fully endorsed by Simon Dan, that straight line between the observer and H. Dan will tell you it doesn't exist. It's not there. I'll just bring my diagram up on top of this just to make this point absolutely clear. This is Simon Dan endorsed. This line, we can't see this. This line that's supposed to be blocking the oil rigs with a geometric tangent point, physical earth curve edge horizon that used to be in the maths marked with an X label horizon, claim for boats to fall over. Well, you don't have this. Nobody's expecting to see physical geometry, end quote, plano walk. Nobody's expecting to see the geometric horizon, end quote, AP science. The geometric horizon only exists in the maths. You're not going to see this, that's the rumpus. So we don't see this. This straight line to a tangent doesn't exist. We've got this bent line. So this bent line is what you actually have. Go back to Brian's diagram. Which line do they need to correct from, did you say, Brian? The straight line? Why are they correcting from that? They don't have it. What are they talking about?
At this point, they dip, they die. Because within this, they require the Dingleberry, but fundamentally, to apply this mathematics to it, they make the positive statement, once again, those you going back to the beginning, that the horizon is, as demonstrated, the leading edge of a sphere. That is what's causing the horizon. It's an obstruction. That's what their maths is saying there, and that's what you're adjusting for this physical location that you're lining up to. It's
H.
It's
H, right?
Yeah.
Earth curve.
Yes.
Right, Rufy, this is where I got involved with your current back and forth with Adam. Yeah? Because Adam thought it was in very good standing to let me know how amusing it was and mutter the Black Swan, Rufy, to great humorous effect for all his peers. Right, Adam? He got to the point where he was showing you this diagram, didn't he?
Yeah. And I say, as soon as they do this, we talk about positive claims. This is fundamentally going back and reaffirming the horizon as the leading edge of a ball, which constrains them via geometry. And like I say, the response to that is Black Swan. And I just want to give the numbers. We've seen the pictures on the Black Swan, and just for the audience, that you can mess about with maths and make it sound like it's plausible. But when you take the Black Swan, they're using R to define it. And if you take the Black Swan image, your R in the maths becomes so big that it's the distance in their model from here to the moon, 250,000 miles. And that's why the Black Swan is so devastating if you want to reify the horizon. We don't. But they keep trying to deny it. But like I say, when you get into celestial navigation and they're looking at here, it's the contradictions within their claims, because once again, at this point, they have to go back to reify the horizon as a physical point that they're adjusting for to create the tangent plane over the Dingleberry.
Something I didn't spot when we were doing this back in 2015, Adam. Can you see the diagram for myself on screen now?
I can only see Brian's. I'm on my phone, so.
I don't know.
Do you want me to unshare for a minute?
If you stop sharing, hopefully you can just share what I've got on screen for the panel, but I'll just detail it while Adam's getting it up or Brian's stopping his screen share. So once you can see this, Adam, there's a marked distance 1 line of sight. Can you see that? Tell me when you're
I can't see anything on my phone. No, I can't see it.
Don't worry about it. I was just going to say that you can look over this after the fact. I just wanted a nod. So just say yes at what seems like the appropriate moment, Adam. There's a surface level marked out on their prior claim of a physical tangent point geometric horizon giving you a hidden value in their mathematics. Obviously, this is your man on the left looking at the side of your own head, and the hidden value for the target, which will be a tower, let's say it's 200 feet tall, and we're going to claim that there's 50 feet missing, right? So excluding all aspects of angular relationships with distance then. Doesn't matter that this diagram here probably represents about 8,000 miles. Yeah, we'll still put a hidden value to a building that's 200 feet on the other side of this depiction. Because who cares? It can be any scale. It doesn't include perspective, so you can scale it up however you like. For the example, doesn't matter. What does matter is they've got a physical obstruction at the horizon that was Earth curve. And what were they claiming? Well, look how much it gets in the way, the physical obstruction. Until someone like Dan or AB Science or Rumpus or Planner Walk has to deal with the black swan, and then they tell you that this point in their maths that they used to claim block stuff doesn't exist and wouldn't be expected to be seen. Even though they spent 3 straight years arguing how we see it at the horizon, look how much it's blocking the bottoms of these boats when they fall over our physical horizon, marked here, labelled horizon, with an X to a physical tangent point and a straight line to it that they don't have anymore. It's a complete cluster screw.
I just want to share what I was sharing again for a moment, Nathan.
Go ahead.
It's something I want to point out because it's going to be part of what you're talking about there. See this H here? If I just kind of scroll it up a little bit, can you see what I mean? I don't have it. Sorry, I don't have it here, but I'll just read out what it says at the bottom here. Due to the height of the eye of the observer, the visible horizon H, the visible horizon, right, which is the geometric horizon there, they're claiming, falls below the plane tangent to the Earth at the point where the observer is standing, P. So it falls below the tangent. And this is what they're claiming. Now, they put that tangent in there. I'm just putting a red line over it, right? That was the first tangent point they used. The second one is this, where the blue line is to their geometric horizon. So they're claiming, right, that the dip of the angle from the eye, right, to your visible horizon, which would be that, they're claiming that that is actually the geometric horizon that the dip is going to. And then they're correcting for the dip, right, by bringing that up here, right? And then they're completely contradicting everything they're after saying there and claiming, and then doing height of height correction to bring that down. I mean, what they're doing is just completely contradictory, because they're claiming that this part here, that this here is the visible horizon, and this, I don't know what this is not visible, according to them. But if it's not visible, then why are they bringing this up here mathematically and then doing a real world correction?
Stop. Don't pose that as a question. No. In this diagram, it makes it very clear. I'm putting my mouse under it right now. The visible horizon, H. Yeah. When Rufy comments on my videos, obviously he's proactively interacting with us right at the moment, aren't you, Rufy? Yeah? I ask him how his geometric horizon's working out. Yeah, you're going to need a physical geometric tangent point sphere edge for this, aren't you? As depicted and as detailed as the visible horizon. Yeah? Rufy, that's what you need. A straight line to a geometric tangent point horizon marked as H. That's what is required. Black Swan, right, Adam? That's where I came in. To have a good little laugh at you and your need for a horizon that's physical, Rufy. Bless.
It's a statement of fact in their mathematics that is physical. It's the relationship between R and the observer's height that they conclude the adjustment for. Yeah, but it has to be a physical thing because it's the physical thing that's blocking it, and it's basically your height that requires the adjustment, along with R. That's what they claim. But in doing so, they fully reify that as a physical geometric obstruction.
I see.
Which,
so they've got a physical geometric sphere edge for horizon precisely as detailed at, marked with an X labelled horizon, geometric tangent point in their maths that used to have boats blocking it and falling over it, etc., etc. So they've got a requirement in their maths for a geometric horizon. It's fairly straightforward. There it is, labelled as the visible horizon. Meanwhile, if the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles as depicted in this diagram, then every distance to that, marked with the H tangent point horizon, could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, as per the maths I showed you earlier with horizon marked with an X at a tangent point. However, in the Black Swan, the distance to the horizon is way in excess of a physical geometric limitation known as Earth curve. Ergo, the horizon is not a tangent point. And what's that you all told us for 2 years when we pointed that out in 2020, 1st Jan, when that argument first came out? We wouldn't expect to see H. Hey, Rufy, your own side has told us for 2 years that we wouldn't expect to see H, the one that you need right now to get tangent from. Yeah? Nobody's expecting to see H, Rufy. How's that geometric physical sphere edge tangent point working out for you, Rufy? Maybe you can let me know in the comments. I know you're watching.
Nathan, can you go to Master B and post that Dingleberry Earth?
Certainly can.
I don't share.
So although not
I was
rotated...
getting ready to say something.
Oh, go on, John. I've got it up when you're ready, 10th.
I was going to say that the depiction that Brian was showing of the geometric horizon, that claim, is an orthographic view of what we do experience, that model. The model, the celestial sphere model, that's a reification of another model. What we see is reified the first time into the celestial sphere. So they're doing a reification of reality.
Indeed.
It's insane. It's insane to even try to debunk it. It's delusional at best.
10th, got your Dingleberry Earth turned at 45 degrees.
Yes, as this picture shows clearly, everything under that flat disk plane that the person is laying on his back on, if you zoom in a little bit, or if you can see, that's a guy in the middle there laying on his back looking up at the sky. Everything under that flat disk is a thought experiment. Doesn't exist.
Yeah, the way it actually functions is using the plane that he's got drawn out in all directions. You know, he's got lines up, down, to his right, because it's at a strange 45-degree angle to throw you off the scent if you happen to come across this. But this bit is his perspective view of the lights in the sky. Now, obviously, with a perspective view, things that are further away, over the ground, that is going to be mapped out on this disc, not on the Dingleberry Earth below, because the GPs need to meet it at 90 degrees from your position. So along this line, for the sake of argument, if a star was here, that's how it presents itself to you with a perspective view. So you're looking up in the air, and that's your GP and any star that happens to be above you at that particular position. Now, the GP of the star in reality is going to be over here somewhere, let's just say, and then 90 degrees below if you were measuring it. But on an arc is how it would present with your field of view. However, in reality, what you're measuring is two parallel lines. The lights of the sky are moving away with parallel zeniths. Again, 90 degrees in the sky, you're going to minus from 90 to give you the calculable distance that you're going to extract from that. Well, that means that you've got parallel zeniths, a line going up to the star and along to your position, so you can draw a box. That's how it's done. So all of this dome affair is just a perspective representation. Whoops. Oh, go on. There we go. It's just a perspective representation of how you see. But the plane, that's not representing how you see. It's how you measure the surface that you'll be negotiating. Again, nothing to do with the Dingleberry. It would throw everything out of whack because you wouldn't get a box. You wouldn't get parallel zeniths. You wouldn't be able to minus from 90. You wouldn't get 90 at the GP. You couldn't even measure an angle if you were using the sphere. And we do, and we measure and navigate with it on a flat plane. Thank you, 10th.
Also, just remember the next step in this is to see how their books do celestial navigation. They take that disk on top, take it to the center. So you have the equatorial plane now of something that doesn't exist. So follow my thinking here. In their books, all the measurements come from the equatorial plane, the center of the Earth. So that disk is used to reify their model, but that there is no model, there is no ball, there's no dingleberry. So it works on a flat plane, and they say, well, how do we make this work since we can't get angles from a curved baseline? Oh, we'll cut the Earth in half, move the actual representation of what we live on, which is a flat plane and elevation angles. We'll move that disk from the top of the Earth to the center, and all the maths, all the celestial navigation, everything comes from the center, not the surface. So all they did was transpose the flat Earth to the center. It's still a flat Earth.
That's insanity. And if they did that, then can they tell us what's in the center? Answer one of our housekeeping questions?
Not a measurement. That's what's not in the centre, because the measurement's coming from the surface and being used on the surface with 90 degrees to the GP of the star on the surface. None of it's being transposed onto a sphere. As I said earlier, it would cock everything up if you did.
Oh, dear.
I'm just showing a representation there of what Tent is talking about. Here is the tangent plane that they would claim, but it's just the fact that the Earth is flat that they have to use this. There is a 45-degree angle to celestial body up here, gives them a 45-degree from 90, 45-degree then zenith angle, and then they just what they have to do is then take all of this and move it down the way by almost 4,000 miles mathematically, and also move the position of this star that was originally seen here down here, right?
Sorry, just a second. I'm confused.
Mathematically.
I'm sorry, I'm a bit confused. You say they do this. This doesn't look anything like what I've read in celestial navigation books that have been presented here. I mean, when you say they do this, the celestial navigators definitely don't do this, Brian. What are you talking about? Who does this?
Well, it's in celestial navigation books, but it's not something they do in reality. In reality, they do this, right? This part. They have this real-world flat plane, and they take an angle to a star.
Let's just do that. Just draw out the tangent plane with the dingleberry below. Do you want to just draw that line out so that it meets 90 degrees at the star that you've got measured that would then be transposed to the centre? Let's just draw out that tangent so that we can see that when you actually do it, you just get 90.
Okay, 1 second now. Second, sorry.
Right, so what Brian's about to do is draw out a straight line from the position, ignoring the dingleberry Earth, because the position that he's standing on is going to have 90 degrees to the GP. The geographical or ground position meets that line, not the sphere Earth. And if you're going to claim that it meets the sphere Earth, you've got to transpose the angle down to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth where you're not measuring the angle. Well, that's not what you do. You get the GP with 90 degrees as a geographical position, meeting you with a flat baseline. So that's what you actually do. What Brian's got on this now is an elevation angle measurement. Here's your flat baseline. Here's the GP of the star. Sorry for my hangout stuff appearing over the top of it. Maybe you can do it, Brian. Just draw the 90 degree along the baseline of that star you've just drawn out. Where would the 90 degree below the GP be? On the ground?
Yeah. I've drawn it out there.
Oh, I can't. It's too small.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. So that 90 degree, that's on the baseline. That's the ground position, the geographical position below the star. That's what you're trying to use, and all your circles that you'll draw out will be along this flat line. And if there was a star on the right, the star on the right would also meet at 90 degrees to your position, with 90 degrees below the star. Again, not very useful to have a dingleberry Earth, and this distance could be several thousand miles. But it'll still meet at 90 degrees to the ground, the baseline, that you've just drawn out to get an angle at all. Sorry, Brian, I'm hijacking your point. Carry on.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. No, I just have to take away these lines just a second, just to carry on with what I was saying. Exactly what you said. That's what actually happens in the real world, right? But mathematically, this is what they do. They move this part down to the center of their globe. And they also have to then mathematically move the angle line down to the center. And the reason they do this is because they claim that these stars here, that they're huge, whether it be the sun or whatever, that these things are huge and they're so big, even though they're far away, they're so big that there's nothing but power, all the light from them are coming in parallel. But I'm just going to show something now. And this is something that I seem to have really annoyed some of the ballers with, including Ruhif, as he seemed to be very annoyed by it. 1 second now. Now, this is a diagram I made earlier. Very simplistic diagram, but it gets the point across. Right. Can you see that in the center of the screen? You should be able to see it. So this is parallel rays, right, to a curved surface here, right? This is what they're claiming, right? So if the sun, let's just say this is sun rays, if the sun in the heliocentric model is so huge, right, that all the light coming from it and coming from Polaris and anywhere else is always parallel, right, then where is the GP? For a GP to exist, you need smaller local. The Earth needs to be bigger than the luminaries. You know, where is the GP? You can't have a GP with parallel sun rays because everywhere that's lit by the sun is the GP. So the GP is half of your globe. Do you understand what I mean?
Oh, I do. If you assign parallel light rays, you say, well, then all of those light rays between you and the angle that you've moved it down to in the centre of a spherical Earth, everything between there and you and the measurement point that's no longer a straight line, it's now bent because you've moved it to the centre, they're all GPs. Where are you going to get a GP from? You need it to be above the ground at 90 degrees. Well, number one, this isn't giving it above the ground at 90 degrees. And when you say, well, this is in celestial navigation books, do you mean the disclaimed to be never used, overly complicated conversion process to a sphere that celestial navigation doesn't actually apply when they measure 90 and couldn't apply it because it wouldn't give them 90? That process that's in the books that we occasionally cover. Is that what you meant?
Well, the claim that to claim that there's parallel light rays, that means you're claiming that the light is coming from something that's so huge that by the time it reaches your globe Earth, that the light rays are still parallel. The inverse square law hasn't even taken effect. This is what you're claiming, if you're claiming that. So that means that how can you have a GP of a sun that's way huger than your globe Earth? The whole point of a GP is that is the geographical position that luminary sits over the Earth. The Earth is the biggest thing, and these other things might be big compared to us or whatever they are, we don't know, but they're small. They're smaller than the Earth. Like the sun might be big, but it's smaller than the Earth, if you understand what I mean. It's like their version of reality.
Maybe you could just call it a super GP.
Yeah, a super GP, because they're in their version of reality, right? In their version of it, there can't be a GP. The sun could never have a GP. Polaris, anything could never have a GP because the light is always coming in parallel because they're these big, massive things, way huger than your globe. So it's not possible to have a GP, and they can't understand it. They can't get it.
Well,
they don't understand that.
Well, you couldn't have a 90 degrees on a curved surface anyway. So the idea of a GP for them is out the window anyway, right?
Correct.
Well, the GP is just be the position it's over, you know. But their claim that it's the claim they make that the sun is huge and the globe Earth is small. I just show, right?
No, we got that, Brian. Yeah, I know. Yeah. He's undermining your point. That rabid dog thing's going to get you every time, I'm afraid. Yeah, he's completely undermining your point because he's saying you won't ever get a GP because it's below the measured position on the ground, right? The position of the GP is its geographical position, ground position. When they have that presented to them, as John's just done so eloquently, their response is, well, the tangent plane that you're drawing 90 degrees to the GP has got nothing to do with the surface of the sphere. That's what they'd say. But it's a geographical position that you're measuring in reality. It's just nothing to do with the sphere. When you say, well, it is, because if you move it to the centre, well, you're not measuring an angle from the centre, and then draw out parallel light rays. well, yeah, you can mathematically derive it that way, but it bastardizes the original measurement of the angle on the surface.
Yeah, but just before we go to Kent's thing, just 1 second. Just the last thing I'll say about it is seems to have been really triggering for the ballers, because I've had several of them who saw yesterday's show and heard me say it contact me. Ruhif is one of them. He's said something to Adam about it as well. It's like, this is bothersome for them because you cannot have a GP on the surface of something smaller than the light is bigger than. You can't. It doesn't have a ground position, or everywhere that it lights up is the ground position.
Right. No, I agree, Brian.
They
After the fact,
don't
you're
like
gonna.
their super GP.
Someone will slip by, Brian. One day we won't notice that they've used a flat Earth elevation angle measurement to draw out this sphere to then claim you're moving an angle measurement taken from the surface that you couldn't take from a sphere to the centre of the sphere to have parallel light rays for you to jump on them and go, ha! But if all the light's going to everywhere over the surface between you and what would actually be the GP that you couldn't measure on your curve, then all of those positions would be a GP. You haven't got a single position below a single piece of ground, and according to you, it's not even on the ground of your sphere. So, yeah, maybe one will get past and get to you, that rabid dog, at some stage. But I doubt it. I've got to be honest. But it's good that you're pointing out. Don't take that to mean I don't like what you're doing. It's always good to smash them into the ground after we point out that they need a flat Earth angle. And if they say, no, well, I'm just going to use that flat Earth angle, make a sphere model from it, and then put some angle measurements that are claimed to be taken from the surface that couldn't be taken in the centre. Well, when they get to that, Brian, I'm sure you'll tear them a new one.
So two more slides in Master B, Nathan.
Okay.
I've just put another one in 10th as well. The one that, like I said to Rufi yesterday, in part of the challenge with regards to this, then, you know, when he's attacking Cruising World and other reputable publications, he's going to get his crayons out, he said last night, and he has done. I've posted the picture there, and you'll see it's fundamental to his claim that the light rays are parallel. Ouch.
Mark.
Yeah, that was what.
Go on, Brian. I'll go to 10th first slide then afterwards. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say that's why I'm attacking, and I have been attacking, this two-way speed of light claim, because they need that to have these parallel light rays. So that's why I've been attacking that. That's where this is all coming from, because I've been attacking their two-way speed of light claim.
I thought last week we had an admission that there is divergence, 0.055 degree or something.
But that's only on the sun. They try and say that with the sun, but they don't say it with other things like Polaris. They say it with the sun because they have no choice, because we can photograph divergent rays, but they want to make those divergent rays almost parallel, even though they're obviously very divergent.
Almost. Hold on. I love their terms. Almost parallel? So not parallel. It's like,
so
no,
like
parallel's very much
bit pregnant.
defined. Two things running along one side of one another, never to be meeting. That's what parallel means. So if it's almost parallel, that's not parallel. Shout out to Ben White, who says, why is a sphere drawn under a tangent? If it's not used in navigation, ? This is a begging the question fallacy of Earth with radius 3959 miles. Yeah, absolutely correct, Ben White. Shout out to the 170 people watching. Woohoo! Very warm welcome to all of you who've just joined. We're about to round out this live show shortly and give 10th man the last point. This is one of his slides is stuck on right now. But stay tuned because there will be an after show to follow. Go ahead, 10th.
Which one do you have? I sent two.
Aeroplane with celestial horizon and then all the different tangent planes and then the parallel light rays.
Perfect. So you can see when they do navigation in the air with an airplane with a bubble sextant, they have to have a flat plane. When they do navigation on the surface of the Earth with an actual sextant, they got to have a flat plane. And because they want to stick a dingleberry, they realize the surface of a dingleberry is curved. It can't work. So they take that same flat plane and move it to the center and say, this is where everything is measured from. The only problem is there's no airplanes flying at the center of the Earth. There's no boats navigating at the center of the Earth. And the actual measurements come from those two places when the navigator's using a bubble sextant or marine sextant. So the way they fool everybody with what's below the plane, the dingleberry, is to cut the dingleberry in half and say, that's where we'll take it from, because if you cut a ball in half, that's a flat disk, and we can get an elevation angle from a flat disk. Go to the next picture, and you can see here, it's another dingleberry with that disk on top of the dingleberry that doesn't need to be there, as Ben White just said in the super chat. And you can see it could only work an elevation angle from left to right. As you can see, the north celestial pole and the observer's horizon must be flat to get an elevation angle. This is the end of the ball space monkey religion. That's it.
Again, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Hello, by the way.
Hey,
My point with the parallel sun rays is I'm attacking their two. So just
Eli,
mute a second, Eli.
oh, my bad.
I'm attacking, right? It's not parallel sun rays I'm attacking. It's their two-way speed of light calculation I'm attacking. And that's what I've been attacking for some time now. Because I know there is no such thing as a one-way speed of light measurement. Dave had to admit it to me. I had Ruhif admit to me that there is no one-way speed of light measurement, and he agrees with Veritasium. But then he turn around and tell me that there is a two-way speed of light measurement. Even though he says he agrees with Veritasium, who says the speed of light was never measured and never will be, because we can't measure a one-way speed of light. So we don't know. It's a two-way. We have no idea if the two-way is correct or right or wrong or anything. It's just a calculation. And Einstein admitted that it's just a convention that's agreed upon. So when I'm talking about parallel rays, it's going back to their two-way speed of light calculation. And I, in recent days, made a video where I cut down the two-way speed of light calculation to miles per second, right? And then I cut it, right, and I showed how, using that calculation, I can send a signal 5,000 miles in one direction and get a 5,000 mile return back, right? over 18 times in 1 second, right? But if I cut that calculation down by 16, I can still get a return back in the real world from a 5,000 mile away, let's say, a bounce or whatever, right? I can get, that's 10,000 miles. By cutting down the two-way speed of light calculation by 16, I can still get a return signal that's a 10,000 mile round trip in 1.16 seconds. And that's real world. So if I said 1, that is the speed, I can get a 10,000 mile round trip signal bounce. So, and that's by cutting it down by 16. So that proves that they need that calculation for their distances, for their sun and the stars and all this. They need all that. But the thing about it is that when I cut that down, I show that it's just a calculation, and I cut it down by 16, and I show in the real world, if you had a receiver and you got a bounce from 5,000 miles away in 1.16 seconds, you wouldn't notice it. It'd just be it's just instantaneous as far as you're concerned.
Well, that begs the question:
Well, that begs the question: what's in between the Earth and the sun?
No, well, okay. Now,
It's a good
well,
question.
how's what you're saying related to what you said earlier, Brian? That's what I'm confused. I get what you're saying now. You've said it before. How's it related?
As in, how is it related to parallel sun rays, Eli? Is it?
No, you were talking about sun rays in the context of, well, everywhere would be the GP. How's what you're saying now? Is it supposed to be related? Because John said what he said, and it had to do with.
It is related because the origin.
No, I mean, how are you relating it in this conversation right now? How is what you're saying related?
Because
I was trying to figure that out too.
The origin of their parallel sun rays claim comes from their claim that there's a two-way speed of light measurement. There is no such thing. There is a two-way speed of light calculation that's just a convention that's agreed upon, and that's from Einstein's own mouth. So their whole claim of parallel rays, not only would it not give you a GP, but the whole thing is just a calculation. That's my point.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I'm still going with the super GP.
Well,
because it's so many things wrong with people's belief in all this stuff. There's so many things, like once you see it, it's like I'm opposed to allowing people like Ruhif or Rufi, whatever his name is. I'm opposed to giving them any. It's like a child who's not yours, who's asking you questions that are ridiculous that you shouldn't spend all day answering. You get what I'm saying? Like once you say, no, parallel light rays don't exist, it really is the end of the discussion after that. It's like a 2-minute thing, and it's like I don't have to repeat this to you, because in essence I'm really just repeating something that I've read from your paradigm, and I'm giving you my understanding. I don't need to argue with you. The same thing with this whole conversation. I wanted to post 2 things, so before I continue that, does anybody else have any comments on the parallel?
I do. Yeah, sunlight isn't actually parallel or divergent.
What do you mean?
Let me just say
right.
this.
All light is divergent. That, as far as we can tell.
I want to hear his explanation.
When you can prove it's coming from a source, sure.
Well, can you prove that it's not coming from a source?
Are you asking me to prove non-existence?
Right, because I know what does exist is light, and anytime I've ever seen light, it's diverging from a point.
All right, are you saying that the sun is in a different realm and we perceive it only through our realm?
Sorry?
Are you perceiving that the sun is in a different realm when we only see the physical aspects of it through our realm?
Nope. I don't think it is in any realm. It's just an apparition, like a hologram that we get to see, and that happens to correlate directly with the apparent daylight direction manifestation. But there is no traceable origin source, nor is there an actual traceable path.
We just went through this yesterday, and you're still on this.
I know, and that's why I'm bringing it up right now. Because yesterday it got brought up when the show was offline. Now I'm bringing it when it's still recording.
Well, it's fair to say a hologram.
Before we go off on a tangent there, I just want to retort to Brian's speed of light things. It's an old TED talk by Rupert Sheldrake, which investigates the history of the speed of light. And if I could just be indulged to read a paragraph. In the late 1940s, the speed of light went up again by about 20 kilometers per second, and a new consensus developed around the higher value. In 1972, the embarrassing possibility of variations in the speed of light was eliminated when the speed of light was fixed by definition. In addition, in 1983, the unit of distance, the meter, was redefined in terms of light. Therefore, any further changes in the speed of light cannot happen. We'll be blind to them because the length of the meter will also change with respect to the speed of light. That is modern physics workaround of the fact that even though they were measuring the two-way speed of light, even that was not a constant and had variations all the way across it.
Well, yeah, exactly, Adam.
Hold on, before you go into that, right? The two-way convention of the speed of light is based in a model that has been debunked by the measurements we take.
That's right. The Black Swan debunked the beginning of the claim because they starts with the R value. That's where the two-way speed of light calculation comes from. Starts with the R value.
Does it start with the angle measurement?
Well, the R value starts with an angle measurement. A flat Earth angle measurement.
Great red herring away from the subject, guys. You all
this one
together.
This is the subject.
Well, let me stop. Let me stop Arwen to say, we heard what you said. It's not an argument. That's how you feel. That's how you feel.
Yeah, that's called a handweight dismissal. It's called a handweight dismissal.
It's not called a handweight
demanding the proof of non-existence from me.
We were talking about the speed of light.
Guys, can I just try to continuously disengage so I can get to my point? Yeah, Arwen, you made your point. Okay, fine.
I mean, I find it interesting. Arwen's point.
Okay, that's great. Can we move on?
Quickly, move on.
All right. So, yeah, like I was saying, it's like really no point in arguing with these people, because we're just going off of what's available, the information that's available, and it cooperates with what we actually do practically. So, let's see. The first thing I wanted to read is something that I read often here, and it's the photo of the guy in the boat. It reads, in simplified terms, when we take a sextant altitude of the sun, we're creating a right angle triangle between it, the Earth's surface at the GP, and ourselves. So when I'm talking to someone, I'm only going to ask them, is that true or not true? I'm not listening for any other response because no other response is actually relevant. I don't have time to play with children. Is this statement true or not true? Not true, justify it. Okay, thank you. Have a nice day. Then remember that all of us flirts are like, I don't know, living in our mom's basement somewhere. So here's this article. I think it's titled Earthly. Andrew Hill, in parentheses, Darwin Rules. Okay? 12th July, page 127 says, even in The Spectator, we rarely find serious assertions that the sun goes around the Earth. One can, of course, believe anything one likes as long as the consequences of that belief are trivial. But when survival depends on belief, then it matters that belief corresponds to manifest reality. We therefore teach navigators that the stars are fixed to the celestial sphere, which is centered on a fixed Earth and around which it rotates in accordance with laws clearly deducible from common sense observation. The sun and the moon move across the inner surface of this sphere and hence perforce go around the Earth. This means that students of navigation must unlearn a lot of the confused dogma they learned in school. Most of them find this remarkably, let me see, where was I? Is this the rest of that? Most of them find this remarkably easy because dogma is as may be, but the real world is as we perceive it to be. If Andrew Hill will look in the Journal of Navigation, he will find that the Earth-centered universe is alive and well, whatever his readings of The Spectator may suggest. Flatter, flurf, derp, retard. No, my bad. Actually, this is Darcy Reddyhoff, Royal Air Force College, Cranfield. So, suck it, ballers. That's it.
the challenge from the first article, and is that the retort in it? So I thought that was lovely, the way it refers to dogma, and it's the dogma you've got to unlearn to be able to do celestial navigation. And the line I like best is when he goes, but it's pretty easy when the dogma is contradicted by reality. You can easily get rid of the dogma. It's a good,
great little excerpt. I love it, Eli.
Yeah, I got it from 10. Thanks, 10. Yeah, I don't have time. I really don't have time. I really, what can they say to that? Everything that they say that we respond to, once we respond to, is ridiculous. 2 days, 3 days, coming up with different ways of saying the same thing. Yes, it's a show. Yes, I love talking to you guys and all of that. But in retrospect, after the show every day, it's like, oh, right. But we're talking to retards, though, who think we're retarded for some reason.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not talking to retards, Eli. I'm talking to the audience and demonstrating the retardedness of the opposition we have, and I'm happy to do that. Yeah, because I'm sharing it with people who have ears to listen, not those that sit there with their hands over their ears, going la 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 la. It's a ball. Yeah, we use them, but I'm not talking to them. Are you really?
No.
It's all for the audience benefit, correct?
Well, they are a good chunk of the audience, as I said in the pre-show. You know, I'm very grateful that it triggers them and they want to come along and say, la, 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 no, you're idiots. It's still a ball, even though we need a flat earth angle measurement in the first instance. And this guy's explaining how you just have to unlearn the rhetoric and dogma of the nonsense of a sphere Earth in order to actually, you know, function on a flat surface that we actually dwell atop. It's really easy because that's what reality actually presents itself. So it's not that difficult. But those la, 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 no, it's not true, it's still a sphere, people, you know, they make up the numbers, and my stats are on the way up at the moment, so thank you very much, all the people watching. 170 live viewers today. That's, you know, I'm not saying I expected that to happen, but like I preempted in the show, I keep a good close eye on my stats, and I see them going up. Well, I know where that viewership's coming from, don't I? I know exactly where it's coming from, and it ain't from devoted flat earthers. It's from them. So, yeah, be careful what you say about my audience, is all I'm trying to say.
Well, I agree with... No, I was going to say, I agree with Eli 100%. That's why I only quote reputable celestial navigation books. It's the books that offer how navigation works, and they think they're navigating on a sphere, but they have to put stuff in there that contradicts the sphere. And so now the ballers and the anti-flat earthers have had a good year plus of that, and they can't argue with their own side, so they come here and do an award show now.
Yeah, I can.
Side, it just go on, boy.
I just want to say, Adam, that I just to Eli, I might sound like I'm making everything complicated, but I can destroy the two-way speed of light, and I did with just a photograph of just the black swan photograph. Because that's the end of it. Because I know what the two-way speed of light is. I know its origins. I know everything about it.
I agree with you, by the way. Like when I asked you, like, how is it related, and you gave me that very concise answer, I was like, yeah, that's a good point. I definitely agree with you, Brian.
And I agree with you in regards to your use of the black swan, Brian. So, as I said in the live show, that was where Adam gave me a nudge. Hey, check this out. Look, Rufy's using a geometric horizon. Check it out. Black swan.
I get criticised like you, Brian, going into a bit too much detail and stuff. And it's needed to destroy their arguments, because their arguments are weak, but it really does give you the fuller understanding of how the ball was built, and knowing these things and what holds it together and how weak it is. And I just want to go back to Eli's quote there. You know, we had a subject matter expert there, a guy that teaches how to do celestial navigation. And he's making that statement and referring to the ball as dogma. It's a really powerful one, because he's not saying it's flat earth. He's not saying anything like that. He's saying get rid of the dogma that you've been given if you want to be able to navigate. So to do it properly, don't believe in that nonsense. Get rid of that and basically stick with right-angle triangles on a flat plane. That's how you'll find out where you are.
And you need to get rid of that dogma in order to function in reality, because that's the main part, right? He's talking about his students or these people doing something in reality that's necessitated to actually exist. So throw the dogma out. I love that part too. Throw that dogma out, that silly sphere shit, because we don't need that in real life. It's great.
I can say too, and I've said it publicly. I've said it. I've written it in comments to people who are on our opposition side. I've told them that I know their model better than at least 95% of them. That I know their model better than at least 95% of them, and I probably know it better than all of them, really, because I know its origin.
That's true for everyone on the panel, I think. But
I was going to say that.
I'm not decrying your knowledge, but I think every single flat earther knows their model better than them, because that's why we become flat earthers, because we understand their model and see all its failings. You can only be that assured if you can see all the gaps, all the holes in it. So I think your standard flat earther Bry holds that title instantly, really.
It's not hard. It's made out of paper mache.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is that most people don't have the confidence to say it to them, but after 7 years, I have no hassle saying it to them. I'm backing it up. You know, if they catch me on something, I go, well, there's always going to be somebody who might know a little bit more, but I mean, I know their origins of their radius. I know where their two-way speed of light came from. I know where their claims about the sun came from. All these things, I know about their rotation claims, their gravity claims, everything, their conservation of momentum claims. I know where all this stuff comes from. I know the origins of it. So I can take any of those things apart in a 2-minute video, or I can spend a 45-minute video going into all the detail of it. You can do it either way, you know. And it's like, they don't like hearing that, one of us knowing their model better.
Well, I mean, we can recreate their model in a kitchen. That's where we're at now. You know, like that. Seriously, that's where we're at with our understanding of their model. Like, we can recreate it in our kitchen.
Nice that a good understanding of the heliocentric model has led us all to a better understanding of the world itself, because prior to this we didn't have that. So the connection is, well, their models developed from flat earth elevation angle measurements, and then, like on yesterday's show when we were using the parallels between rhetoric's acquisition of measurements of an angle to insert R after the fact, that's using a flat plane. Well, that means that we, as a result of having a good heliocentric knowledge, have expanded out our actual understanding of how the world works. And I don't just mean in terms of how it's portrayed in the mind's eye of the person being preached to about heliocentrism. I mean in actual reality. You know, there is a certain amount of flat plane work used to make the sphere. So therefore, that's expanded our knowledge of how the world really is, because the globe models come from a flat plane and the angle measurements that were taken off it. So I never expected a good understanding of the globe to lead me to a better understanding of the actual world that we live in. I never thought it would give me that.
Nathan, I'd like to address 3 of the last slides I put up. If you can go there, I want to take each one, and it's going to help understand what Brian was saying about the 1GP. Tell me when you're there.
Yeah, it's on. I've got the moon and the earth and the sun.
Okay.
10th, it's the Super GP. Thank you, Rip.
Yeah, Super GP. No,
thanks.
you need to go to the one that shows the sun and the earth and the divergent rays. It's a black and white picture, and the earth has a red square box on it. Tell me when you're at that one.
Divergent, I don't know, a red maybe, box underneath the picture of a sun. Is that the one?
Well, it says in writing, light rays reaching the earth are almost parallel. Do you see that one? There's a box around the earth. It's the last 3 in Master B. It's the first one of the last 3.
Okay, I think I've got it. Oh, yes, got it.
That's a nice picture, that one, because that demonstrates how you can't have parallel lines coming off a curved surface.
Yeah, I don't have to say anymore, so that's perfect.
Sorry.
So basically, here's an image showing the sun is so far away and it's so big, and the light's coming off parallel, and it shows one ray hitting the Earth at the center line and going through the Earth and passing it, which is ridiculous, but anyway. And you see the other rays are diverging away. So it says light rays reaching the Earth are almost parallel. Now, if you go to the next slide, let's see, in the order, I have a picture of a sun going down, I believe. But it could be coming up. It really doesn't matter. But let's say it's going down, away from us. You see those rays. They're not parallel. They're diverging on the sky at the cloud line. But I'm going to bring you back to this picture in a minute. So let's go to why I got this picture to the next slide. Because of this thing. So someone put this thing up, and I'm on my phone, so I've got to get rid of this box here. Hold on. All right, so it can be difficult. So here comes the sophistry, the magician's trick. It can be difficult to wrap one's head around the idea that the rays of light reaching us from the sun are almost parallel to each other. Look, for instance, at the following picture of a sunset borrowed from the web. So at least we know it's a sunset borrowed from the web. They certainly don't look parallel. So there we go, right off the front. They certainly don't look parallel. However, here comes the trick. If you draw a sketch of the Earth-Sun system, okay, the Earth-Sun system, the one that you made up, is vaguely to scale, you have to admit that it must be true. Now, I don't know, but I don't fall for those words and that trickery. If they don't look parallel, they don't even look almost parallel. But he says, you have to admit it must be true. Then it says, then it shows that picture. The reason the rays of sunset do not look parallel is because the way our eyes work, things further away look smaller and closer together than they do when viewed up close. Now, you can just spend a good time to see how they're trying to fool you between that picture and the scale that they want to say it's actually working with, and then addressing it as almost parallel, even though our eyes tell us it's not parallel, if you follow.
Not almost parallel. I'm just a bit confused. Hold on. I'm sure I said this earlier. Can you be almost pregnant? I mean, these are Euclidean terms. I mean, I'm not being funny. These are Euclidean terms, aren't they? Right? It's parallel, right? That has a meaning.
It has a distinct meaning, and to take anything away from it, if it's not, then it's either diverging or converging. They're the only that almost parallel is an admission that it's converging or diverging. It's just it's a newspeak way of getting around your problem, because you want to say parallel, you can't say parallel by admission, so you say almost parallel to still fit in with my paradigm. But it's a misspeak, and
it's always almost. You almost got parallel rays. It's within 7% of
you're missing the point, Neil.
horizon.
No, Neil. You can't be within a percentage of parallel. Yeah? That's an oxymoron.
Yeah, I know.
It's a very binary thing. If you're going to be parallel, you're parallel. The lines never meet, ever. In either direction, they just run alongside each other indefinitely. Right? That's parallel.
So I put one in Master B for you, Tom, and in the war.
I know, I saw. Let me finish.
That's my point. Always almost doing things. It's a joke.
We're going to go to chocolates in a minute.
Sorry, who made this? Who did this? Who's cut and paste in the
found it somewhere.
In the crappiest way? Who did this? This is great. I love the crapness of it.
Are you talking about chocolates or the one that Rufy posted last night? Because they're virtually identical.
Are they really?
No, the one I just posted in Master B. It's in Master B in the war room.
Makes perfect
What a
sense to me.
joke.
It's got
Yeah, it
exceptionally good colour blending, and it's just a work of art, chocolate.
So Nathan, Can you
And
go
it
to
looks all
the?
flat from that vantage point, from each vantage point too.
Sixth attempt I've counted.
Don't worry,
10th.
you're getting hung up on details, man. Come on.
Right, 10th. Go ahead.
I want to make my point. Yeah, go back to the picture, standalone picture that was in that diagram that I presented prior to the diagram. Do you have that?
Box around Earth, yeah?
No, not that one. The actual picture of the diverging rays with the ocean at the sunset.
The actual photo of the sun.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So this is the same photo. This is the same photo that the guy had when he went through the sophistry of explaining almost parallel rays. Now, if you just look at the photo and forget all that language that he put there, if you zoom in, you could see diverging rays going in all directions away from you, to the side of you. And obviously, if it's celestial navigation, that thing would have one vertical for its zenith position, the GP, where it's directly over the Earth. But it's funny he used this picture because there's many other pictures where you can just see that top part where he describes as almost parallel, which is ludicrous. But in this picture that he used, if you just zoom into it, that sun, that body, that sun is casting divergent rays in every direction. And it's in the picture. It's going sideways. It's going downwards. It's going upward. I mean, this is death because of the picture alone.
What I have to say about it is what he did was a trick, because he has us talking about the rays, how they're divergent, not parallel. But what he did is he said that they look divergent, but they're really parallel because the sun is very far away, right? And he showed that sun-earth nonsense, right? The little box around the globe Earth. But what's really going on is the whole thing is a massive begging the question fallacy. Because where did he get this massive sun at this big distance? Where did that come from? Where did these parallel rays come from? It all came from the same source, which is a two-way speed of light calculation.
You'll need a flat plane for that.
Right? Yeah, you need a flat plane for that. But this guy is telling you that the reason that they look divergent is because it's coming from so far away. The so far away part is part of his parallel claim. If you understand what I mean, he's tricking us. Or he's trying to trick.
Circular reasoning is what you're saying. It's begging the question.
Yeah, but you could end up arguing with the wrong part. The thing to argue with there is show me your two-way speed of light measurement. That's the end of it. Because he won't be able to do that.
I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.